Hi, I'm Grace Hardy and welcome back to the Unconventional Podcast. Today we have Isaac on, who started his own clothing brand, grew it through social media, and we're going to talk about it. So welcome, Isaac. Thank you very much for coming down. How are you?
No worries at all. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice trip out to London. Don't normally come here, so.
Good, I'm glad. So the big question to start with is, when did you decide that you wanted to start building a clothing brand?
When the first time I actually thought about it, I was 16, and me and my friend called Kellen, back in the day, we used to just scribble. He was really good at art, and I liked the idea of it, and we would just make designs together. But obviously, I don't know, because we were so young and we didn't ever really go through with it. And then after that, I just didn't really consider it for a while, and then I started up another company with my friend George, but we decided to stop that after a while.
What company was that?
It was in cryptocurrency, and I don't know much about it anymore because I've just left the industry because it's too stressful. but it was basically trying to start an ICO for a gaming platform, and we did quite a lot of work, and it was very useful. I don't regret, even though we stopped it, I definitely learned a lot that I use now. I think we got to the point where it's because of regulations, it was you needed a £200,000 investment, and then at that point it's quite a big risk, and me and George didn't fancy getting in complete debt because we weren't 100% sure because of the way it was kept changing so quickly. But after that finished, I just really thought I wanted to do something that I actually enjoyed, and then obviously I went back and then thought about what I used to do and didn't use any of those designs we made, but it was quite fun. So that was the main reason that I started it.
That's so lovely. And how did you come up with the name?
So honestly, I hate coming up with names. I think because then once you set it and you're set in stone, and you can't really change it once you've done it. Well, you can, but obviously not. So honestly, I just remember just writing on a notepad just so many different names. I probably got it somewhere, 50 different names. And I think I always knew at what extent to begin with, but I always knew I wanted it to be quite sustainable. I know when you're getting out started, sustainable is quite expensive to do, so there's obviously when I'm starting though, it's not as sustainable as I want to do it in the future. But I thought, so I guess because it's sustainability is all about the protection being on the earth side.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where it came from, an earth side. And it was one of those names where I'd write multiple names down and then I'll constantly say them again a week later, and most of them sounded terrible, but I kept liking the sound of Earthside and ended up just picking it purely because I was never going to start if I didn't pick a name.
I think that's so important. For me, for my business, I had no originality whatsoever. I just slapped my surname on it and thought, that'll do. That's fine.
I think with certain things, especially yours, you want them to know it's accounting.
Yeah.
Whereas with a clothing brand, you don't necessarily want to put it's a clothing brand in the title.
No, I agree. So when you were starting your clothing brand, how did you sort of get the startup finance that you needed to sort of get samples and put branding together, etc.?
I kind of started it up because I hadn't obviously had any proper education around a clothing brand or anything, or even business education.
Yeah.
I did economics in sixth form, but that's irrelevant really. So I've lost the question.
No, that's absolutely fine. How did you get your startup finance for your business?
Okay, so my startup finance, because I knew nothing about it, I kind of just started up an Instagram account and just messed about with designs and just didn't really rush into anything because I didn't really have any money, and even if I had money I probably would have spent it wrong and then regretted it. So I started up very initially I started up thinking I could do something called drop shipping, where you effectively design the product and then you get the sale, and then a company will then make it for you and send it to them, and you can, to a certain extent, you can keep it quite custom and it can still be a clothing brand. But I very quickly realized it's not good for building a brand. It's more for just selling gimmick t-shirts or things like that. So my whole premise, I wanted to build a brand I could be proud of. I didn't want to just sell products because I don't know.
You have it's got your name next to it.
Yeah.
You should be proud of what you do. Going back to school for a second, how did you find school? And do you think it has helped you at all building a clothing brand?
I think the main reason it's helped me is because it showed me how much I do not want to continue that line of work. You see everyone around you, they're 50 and they're still potentially paycheck to paycheck, and they just don't look happy. And it just was so normal that I feel like everyone accepted it. But I don't know. I just knew when I was younger in school, even going back to primary school, everyone would be like, I want to be a footballer, or I want to be this. I'd never had one of those dreams. Like, I just knew I didn't want to work for someone.
And I think that's really important. I always knew I didn't want to work for someone either.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity came around to start my own business, I basically took it with both hands, and I thought, this is really, really exciting. And I think working for yourself gives you so much freedom, especially creative freedom as well for your clothing brand, that you don't have to listen to anyone else. You can just do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I think when you're doing something yourself and there's not some boss trying to get you up in the morning, and if you don't come in, you'll get fired, you have to enjoy and be proud of what you're doing, I think.
Definitely. So obviously with building a business comes finance eventually, whether that be bookkeeping or a self-assessment or something like that. So I know your mum helped you a little bit with the bookkeeping, but how did you sort of navigate that as someone that, has studied economics at school but hasn't necessarily been able to do those things or hasn't been taught them in school?
Oh yeah, no, the economics doesn't teach anything to do with bookkeeping or running a business. It's like generic, and I obviously didn't pay much attention, so maybe they did. But I think, so initially, because it was just something I was trying to learn, so like for the first maybe year or two, like the numbers weren't like any relevance of tax, what I mean? I didn't have to worry about tax. Like for the first year, I didn't even set up a business or anything like that. I just did it as like a side, like hobby, just to get good at it, because I was aware you're not going to be good at something as soon as you start it. But once I started to build up like some sort of finance, especially when you go over like the tax brackets and things like that, I'm obviously very lucky that my mum was, she's an accountant, she works in an accounting firm, and her boss is also a very nice woman who essentially did my books for free for like 2 years. That's
amazing. That's so sweet of her.
Yeah, and I just need to learn now a bit more. I think because she did it all for me, I now need to go back a bit and kind of just learn the fundamental practices to keeping the right like information, and so then when you go to an accountant or whatnot, you have all the right information.
No, I think that's so important. Do you think that should be taught in schools?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just like how to finance your money, how to save.
Yeah.
Like how to, like even like look forward to like buying a mortgage or something. I don't think they teach you anything of relevance in school. It's all just like, what can we teach them? It's like a test to see how much you can remember. That's it.
And I really personally struggled with that in school because I'm very, very dyslexic, which I'm very open about. I can't do a memory test. I'm not built in that sort of way. I struggle so much at school. Like, I'm a clever bean, like I know things, but it never really translated in a lot of exams, and that was really, really difficult for me.
Yeah, when did you find out you're dyslexic? Because I didn't find out till I was 17.
Really? Oh, my parents knew in primary school. I got singled out. They were like, nothing she writes makes sense. I always got my B's and my D's like completely mixed up, and there were just so many red flags that they were like, we're going to get this girl tested for dyslexia.
It's definitely a spectrum, isn't it? Because I don't think I'm definitely bad. Like when I look back at my writing, like you say, like the, or it just
there and there.
It just doesn't make sense at all. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time trying to improve that.
And so when you got diagnosed with dyslexia, did it feel like just a bit of sense of relief that you were able to put a name to all the things that you were experiencing?
I hear that a lot, but personally, I didn't really feel a relief because I never felt like it was something that was holding me back per se. Like and it was because I got diagnosed in school, and because it was all about how does that affect your schoolwork.
Yeah.
By the time I was diagnosed, I was trying to do the cryptocurrency business, so I really didn't care that much. I quite liked it because one of my head of year, who was my economics teacher, she hated me. Mainly, I think, because of my brother. She already didn't like him, so I never stood a chance.
Bad track record.
Yeah, exactly. But she despised... I bought a laptop purely for sixth form because I can't keep these folders organised. Like, I'm sure you can relate. Like, computer, it can be pretty. It can be so easily organised. You can search up a keyword and it just pops up. It makes so much more sense to me. But she was adamant I wasn't, even though sixth formers were allowed computers, she was adamant I wasn't allowed on it just because she didn't like me. So she literally, that's the reason that I got the diagnosis for dyslexia, because I was like, I'm gonna prove her that I need it. And I literally had to get that, and even after I got that, she still gave me attitude about it. That's
so poor.
I know, and I don't know. I never really stood a chance with her, I don't think.
Oh, bless you. I think that's so awful for me. I had the same. So I bought my laptop that I had now for sixth form to write notes, because for me, I really struggle. I'm just a bit slower than everyone else. So when everyone's writing notes, I can't write as fast as everyone else. So having a laptop really definitely helped me massively, just because I'm going at a snail's pace compared to everyone else.
Do you find when you're on the laptop, you are the same as everyone else though?
I started my career studying for the AAT qualification whilst working as an apprentice in accounting. Not only do I have a recognised qualification on my CV, it's given me the skills and experience to progress and start my own accounting firm at just 21, all whilst avoiding university debt. So, whether you're a school leaver or you've already started working, it could be a great opportunity for you to build an exciting career in finance. There are opportunities in virtually every industry, from accountancy practices such as KPMG to companies such as Network Rail and Microsoft, and even the NHS. There is no limit to your potential. Find out more about accounting apprenticeships at aat.org.uk/unconventional. I wouldn't say the same, because I find it really difficult to concentrate on what the teacher is saying, the presentation, and then note taking as well. All those three things I just really, really, really struggle with, but it definitely did speed me up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And so obviously you built your brand online instead of in a shop, which is great, less overheads like we were talking about earlier. But how did you start building your social media out? Because obviously at the moment it's fabulous. I think on TikTok you've got over 100,000 followers, and Instagram is massive as well, but everyone starts from zero. So how did you start?
So I started purely on Instagram because obviously I wanted to learn something before I spread myself too thin, and Instagram was definitely the best option at the time. TikTok it must have been still pretty new, because TikTok's not been around for that long.
No, it was probably definitely still dancing videos. Yeah,
it was probably like a couple years into it getting bigger, and I didn't really understand TikTok at the time. So I just used Instagram, and I think like I've heard some of these big YouTubers, I started out in the same way, literally just commenting on other people's posts, like, cool post. Like, I'd be genuine, like show some real interaction to what they posted, but then also be like, if you have the time, could you check out my brand? And I must have sent thousands of comments out.
Really?
Because obviously I was quite young, I didn't really know what to do, I didn't have money, and you're just trying to get your name out there. And it worked pretty well. I don't know, in terms of like the actual return of time, definitely gets you quite a few, and because it's like you're organically reaching out, as long as it doesn't seem like you're just spamming comments on people's posts, it does, like it did work. Like it did get quite a few people who like were waiting for my next post and things like that, even at a stage where I thought the stuff I was posting wasn't very good because I'm so new.
And so how did you start coming up with content? Were you just posting like designs that you had done, or yourself wearing samples?
Yeah, so initially on Instagram, it was just like designs that was coming up on. I'd use the story to show me designing them and things like that. You could like talk to your followers by asking them questions and things like that. It was actually probably the most personal right at the start, because it felt so easy to be, because no one I knew. I like kept it all secret because I didn't want to be like, oh, look at me, I'm starting a clothing brand, because I didn't think that. I just wanted to do it. So I kept it quiet for probably like 6 months to a year before anyone really knew about it, other than maybe my close friends.
That's amazing. So how did people react when they found out?
The people are generally positive. I overthink things and then they're always nice, and then it's like, why did I overthink it? But
yeah, we were having this conversation earlier. I said to you that I didn't post my face on my business social media for about 2 months.
Yeah.
But just because I was so scared of what people would think. And as soon as I did it and got over that bump, then like my followers and engagement started increasing, because you're not just like a faceless Instagram page. Like you have a personality, and like people can see what you do and they can relate to you more. And I think that's so important. But yeah, I was definitely, like, to put it in a phrase, scared for what Becky from school would think of me. Like I was so terrified. And I think starting my TikTok page as well, I think that was also really scary.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind if like one of my posts gets like over 100,000 views, but as soon as someone from like my old work or like school have like liked it, then I'm like really embarrassed all of a sudden. And I don't know why we do that. I think we just both probably need more confidence. I definitely needed it.
I think there's something, I think we're similar in the sense that like putting your personality out there makes you, like, in our heads we're like, oh, if we're doing that, then we must think people really want to see it, or that we're special enough to do that. Whereas it's not. You're just being you, and I'm still definitely getting to grips with putting my personality on the internet. Like I struggle definitely with that still, but I think it's the exact same. Yeah.
And I think it's important. Like, I will hide like bits of my personality. Like, I think we all know from like my personal Instagram page, I'm obsessed with jellycats. Like, my jellycats go on holiday with me, they come everywhere, and I obviously didn't put them on my business page, but then I've started to recently, because like I got a potato jellycat, etc., which was adorable. So I think it is, but I think putting your personality on social media sometimes makes you vulnerable, and I think that's quite scary because then people can comment on your personality and what they think of it, and that's very terrifying. Like, I've had a couple of bizarre hate comments, if that's what you want to call them, like saying that quitting my well-paying job was like the worst thing I could have ever done in life, and that's scary.
Yeah, I got a weird one. And like, I'm sure these people who are actually big on the internet must get it so much that it means nothing. But I remember it was like 3 years in. So like I'd gotten like quite a lot of orders, and I was all making them by hand. So like I was a few days behind production, and I got an email like, if it doesn't turn up on Monday, I'm going to kill you. I was like,
What?
I was like, oh, it's a bit weird. It like,
That must have been so terrifying though.
a little bit. Like I tried to play it off as a joke. But like it does play in the back of your mind, and then a week went past and I'm still alive, it's all right. So it's just weird though. It's like, who's had a thought process? Like, I understand you might be a bit unhappy if your parcel's late, which it wasn't even really that late in this case. I mean, it doesn't seem like a rational person in the first place, but it's just, yeah, strange.
People can be very bizarre. But going back to how you make your clothes, do you want to walk us through that process?
Yeah, so how I currently make them. Yeah, so I will order, like, I've got like suppliers to buy like blank, say, joggers, hoodies, and they're like unbranded. And then what I do from there is depends on the design. If it's a design like
like on this beautiful one here.
I use screen printing, which is it's a silk screen that you cover in something called emulsion. You then print out the design that you want on transparency paper in black ink, and then you put that on top of the emulsion, and then you use UV light to set it, and then the bit where the black print doesn't set, and you just rinse it out. It's very simple once you've done it a couple of times, but when you first hear it, it sounds a bit bit confusing, but it's very easy once you do
How
it.
did you come across that method?
The internet. The internet literally has everything you need to know. I think nowadays you've got no excuse to not learn something. It's just laziness, isn't it? Because it wasn't I didn't get the right method for me the first time. Obviously when I first started, I looked into like the low cost like setups, because obviously I can't go buy like a massive £15,000 carousel for screen printing and all these crazy things. So I originally started with something called, I believe it's DTG is when you print on it, but it's like a heat press. So you print design on a vinyl or like a transparency sheet, and then you use a heat press to put it on. And this was years ago now, and I'd obviously just wear them for a few weeks, wash them a couple times before I sold them, and they just fell apart so quickly. And I think it must be the comparison of like if you go get like a cheap Stag t-shirt or something like that, it really like just looks, yeah. But as soon as I realized that wasn't going to work, I just instantly stopped doing that. You can definitely do it to a better standard of quality. You just might need better equipment, better printers, better films. But the way I did it, it wasn't worth it. So I just did screen printing, which is probably arguably cost the same or less to set up. You just have to buy the screens, like say £10 each.
No, that's good. That's amazing. And so obviously your pricing is obviously very competitive. How did you sort of get to that point? So obviously you covered your costs, but how do you keep them so low? Because other sustainable brands do cost quite a lot of money.
A lot of the sustainable brands, they like do it from the ground up. So like there probably is a lot more money that goes into doing everything like that. Like as it states on like my website and everything, sustainability is like a long-term goal. And as a small brand, there's some things I just can't do. So it's not like 100% sustainable, but that is where I end to be, like when everything is successful. But in terms of keeping it at prices, I think the prices is because I'm producing them myself. I'm not paying someone to make it, so you can kind of keep it a bit lower. Even then, if you pre-make them, as soon as you start buying, say, 500 of each product, it probably costs less than what it cost me to make it, and then you don't have to make it.
Exactly. And so you've had some very successful drops for clothing. How do you manage such big orders when you're making them yourself?
To be the most successful drop I had probably was a drop I did. I don't know what type of holiday you'd call it. It's 420 for a certain type of person that likes doing something. And it's quite a big community, especially on the internet. And I just thought I'd do like a gimmicky t-shirt where it's like £4.20. And then I increased the shipping to £4.20 to make it viable, because if I didn't increase the shipping, I would have lost money. So, and that, to be honest, was mainly to just like get the name out there, do it a bit more. But I think I sold like 450 t-shirts in 24 hours.
That's amazing. Well done.
Kind of came out of nowhere, because that's the thing. I was using TikTok, and TikTok's very I'm sure some people are a lot better at using it consistently, but sometimes I find it quite hit and miss. So sometimes like a TikTok might just get like 400 views, or it might get 2,000 views. All the TikToks I did relating to those they did well, but nothing crazy, maybe like 20 to 40,000 views, and I did a couple of them. But I just think because people saw £4.20, they were like, oh, it's free. And they just bought it.
Girl math.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, so after that, I was like, I kind of just stopped all promotion because I had 400 orders. It was like the biggest back date I've ever had.
Are you running a business? Meet your new best friend, Sage Accounting Individual. Whether you're testing an idea, managing a side hustle, or running a full-time sole trader business, Sage makes digital record keeping a breeze. You can connect your bank, categorize transactions, and create professional invoices in seconds, and send them to your client in a click. Understand your profits, track who owes you money, and get your taxes sorted all from your phone or computer. Need a helping hand? Get instant support from our Sage specialists via web chat, or connect with an expert accountant like me for expert business advice. With Sage, you can focus on what matters, growing your business, while Sage Accounting Individual handles transactions and taxes. It's the perfect partnership to unleash your business potential. Join over 1.2 million businesses already using Sage. You can start today for free by going to sage.com/UK/sage-individual and unleash your business potential today.
And it was very intimidating, because I was like, I've got to make every single t-shirt. I've got to sew labels into every single t-shirt. I've got to package them. I spent probably a week just printing t-shirts. Like my room just had like 400 stacked t-shirts in it at one point. It was like quite stressful. And then once I did the vast majority of them, then I just started packaging them up, and I think I've got a picture somewhere. It's like my whole of my top floor is just covered in parcels.
Oh, bless you. Did you get sick of seeing t-shirts for a while?
I got sick of printing t-shirts, because you have to like pull down with your wrist, and my wrist actually was like in a lot of pain. But I'm not complaining. Like, it's a good problem to have. But
it's an amazing problem. So I think TikTok can be quite a good platform for getting lots of like viewers that you wouldn't normally get. How did you start creating content on TikTok? Because obviously it's very different to Instagram. Yeah,
TikTok is like a whole nother thing in itself. I feel like it's like a little community, and then there's community in communities. And I mainly got on TikTok because I realized social medias have a pretty common like lifespan, where they start up with high organic reach, such as Facebook, Instagram. Like, so you go on there, you post a picture, and it will send it to loads of people you don't even know, and it gives you an opportunity to grow your account without spending money on advertising. And they just do that to get everyone in. And then once they've got like a few billion users, all of a sudden the organic reach drops, and you just start having to do paid advertisement. And I realized Instagram was still in that pretty strong organic reach stage, and Instagram was like long gone past it. So I gave it a go. And to be honest with you, TikTok is not like, because like you go on there's dances and all this. It's like, it's not like mine normally where I'd go, or it's something for me. But I realized quite quickly that if you eventually my account would get in like the right like algorithm, where I'm just surrounded by other like clothing producers or like people who are into clothes. So like my For You page was pretty useful. You could just go through it, see what was like topical, make something relevant to that with your t-shirt, and then post it. To be honest with you, like you say, the thought of my friends seeing me do anything, like there's certain things when you try and like that I had to stay away from, because I just couldn't like bring myself to do it. But even to this day, like I know like I'm just so far past it now. Like some of my mates were like, one of my mates, Frank, he was like, when I see him, he was like, I was just cracking up to your TikToks last night. And I don't take it personally. It's funny. Like,
I think you just have to embrace it after a while.
Because if he was doing them, I'd find it funny too, but not in a malicious way. So it's just like, you just kind of have to look at it from your point of view and realize it's not a problem.
And so how crucial do you think social media has been in terms of growing your brand?
It would be impossible to do what I did without social media. I 100% relied on social media. I mean, obviously you can make a clothing brand, but you'd need £100, £1,000 in investment and start up a store in like a city, and it'd be a completely different ballgame. Whereas with social media, that's literally, like I said, I started it for free on Instagram, and then I never really had to put like a huge lump of investment into it. And obviously at some stage I probably will, just to expand it quicker, but like just doing it gradually through Instagram, like getting a sale here, and then just not even for the money, just to see that, you know, people would actually will buy it, and then just going from there and getting in front of more and more people. But TikTok is definitely what started my brand like successfully. Like before TikTok, it wasn't like anything you could live off.
And so what are 3 top tips you would give to someone trying to expand their business on TikTok?
You've got to definitely enjoy the content you're putting out, because I think near the end I really didn't enjoy it, and it really started to show, and the numbers started to change. So you definitely need to be enjoying it, or it's so obvious that you're not doing it. And I think TikTok is definitely one of those things that is, I don't know, it seems to be getting harder and harder to kind of actually get pushed heavily. But at the same time, if you do get pushed, the numbers are ridiculous on TikTok now. Like some of those videos get like 200 million views.
Yeah, they're insane. Did you see the chocolate and the strawberries video?
No. Wait, the most liked TikTok. Yes. Yeah, my girlfriend showed me that the other day, and I was just like, what the hell is this? And she's like, she's beating Kylie Jenner. I'm like, okay.
I think TikTok is such an amazing platform for someone trying to build a business. For me, so many of my clients come through TikTok.
To me, it makes sense for me to use TikTok, but obviously you're somewhat of a local business. Like, would you do books for someone in a different country?
Not in a different country, no.
That's what I mean. So it's obviously a bit you want to keep towards England, but I guess still, it's quite a huge area.
It is, definitely. But when did you start not enjoying to make TikTok content? Because I think so many creators have definitely got to a stage where they're like, why am I doing this? I don't enjoy it anymore. I need a break. And it's sort of like burnout on social media.
Yeah, I think because TikTok so heavily plays into these algorithms and rewarding you, and like and it's really like, there's just no real information on what makes a TikTok do well. It is all kind of like, you can look at these guides, you can look at all this, but it changes on a week-to-week basis. So I think just nearer the end, probably a year or 2 into making videos, it just started to I just started to hate it. So I have recently taken a break from TikTok, and I remember when I used to be paying attention to all these other brands on TikToks to see kind of what ideas they were doing and things like that. There's this one brand doing so well, and all of a sudden you just stopped TikTok, and I always just thought, why would you do that? That's so silly. And now I probably understand why he did it, because it's just, you can use it to get to a position where you don't necessarily have to use it. I think you should always still try to use it because it's such a powerful tool. But I think my problem when I first started out was just using one social media platform and relying on it. And that's definitely not a good idea.
Yeah, but I think vice versa, it's important not to use too many and burn out. Like for me, for example, I now have 4 Instagram accounts, 2 TikToks, 2 LinkedIn's and 2 YouTubes, and that is a lot.
Yeah, I used to have a lot more accounts for, like I would like have like an Earthside News account or things like that, and I just realised it's just not worth, unless you've got maybe like a team of people where you're putting actually good content out, it's not worth doing it for the sake of it. Like, so I like condensed it down to what actually mattered. So now I've got 1 TikTok account and 1 Instagram account, and then I guess my personal Instagram account.
Good, I'm glad. You also recently did a rebrand. What was the motive behind that?
So I think, like I told you, the best drop I did for 21s is £4.20, and even though it was technically the best drop I did, it just wasn't something I wanted to have to do again and again. Like to sell as your main selling point is like cheap, like a good quality price. It's like you're then if you're not buying them pre-made, you've then got to make them all. And my passion personally isn't mass producing clothes, it's designing them, marketing them, and seeing like the fun things you could do with that. Like that design I made I really liked it. And when I made the sample, it was really enjoyable. But when I made 400 of them, it was not fun at all. So I think like after doing that quite a few times, I realized it's not going to work long term if you don't enjoy it. And also I wanted to be able to scale it. Like I always knew I didn't want to make the clothes. It's just something I could do for the time being to make it like cost lower, make it more affordable. Because to pre-buy stock, you have to buy, I don't know, minimum to get a decent price, 100 of each design. And obviously, sometimes you can sell 100 of a design. Sometimes a design just doesn't really sell as well as you thought. And then you're stuck with 100 T-shirts. In the distant future, it would definitely be what I want to do. And I have worked with manufacturers in the past, but it's also one of those things where you have to find a good manufacturer or they can make your life hell.
So where did you find manufacturers in the past? Because obviously you can go overseas, but do you want to keep it in the UK?
I think in the future, I would love to do it, obviously, in the UK, especially if the business stays in the UK. Like, it just, you've obviously then, like, kind of like the work environment they're in. And not only that, you can just constantly go there and, like, see what's happening and make sure it's right. The first place I ordered pre-made clothes from was literally right at the start, like just after the drop shipping, and I got them from China. And you gotta be careful obviously with who you get from China, but just even anything from the Asian sizing is completely different. So I mean that's a simple problem to fix, but it's just one of them. And like I remember designing all these clothes, and I went with two suppliers, one that made bags and one that made hoodies, t-shirts and all that. The bags, like the production, like they were sending me pictures every other day of like updates, and like I was so confident that it was going to be a good product. And when it came for the price, it was like I was very, very impressed. Like it looks so nice. Like I've still got one out, like because I only ordered 25 back then, and I just kept one because I'm like I never wear it. I just got it in the closet. But
put it in a frame.
Well, I think once I get an office, it'll be one of the things I'm going to put on the wall, like a nice little showroom. I've always like dreamed of having like a pretty room with all the like best designs. But the other company, I was getting really I was losing confidence every week because they just weren't being very communicative. And long story short, the products arrived and like they did technically what I asked them to do, but like terrible quality. So it was earthside embroidered across the chest, and like the letters weren't even lined up. One of them was bigger, the quality, it was terrible. I literally had to like spend ages trying to get like sort of a refund. I only ever got a 50% refund, and I couldn't sell the products. I didn't want to, they were too bad. I sold a few of the joggers because they looked a lot better, but the hoodies were terrible.
Bless you.
So it kind of put me off it for a while. But definitely, if you find a good supplier, for example, even the bag one, I would happily, as long as everything in terms of like the sustainability and their work environment, would happily use them again because they were very good. But then even it's the same with some English suppliers, like they can have the same problem. So you do have to be careful. I've used one English supplier before. It's quite like a small London supplier, and just did a couple of small runs of t-shirts because sometimes I'm limited to what I can produce at home. I can only do single coloured prints, and I can do multi-coloured prints, but they can't require any sort of like accuracy in the sense that like I could have like the front print could be green and the back print could be black. That's fine, but to do them like synced up, it wouldn't. You'd have to have minimum accuracy, which require these like carousel things, and it wouldn't fit. Let alone do I want to buy it, because I don't want to buy all this equipment to then start paying someone to make it for me.
Yeah, it's just deciding what you want to invest your money in. So you've had your clothing brand for years. So looking back retrospectively, what do you think is one financial mistake that you think you've probably made?
I think it's definitely, maybe it's quite obvious to some people, but keeping your finances completely separate. And ideally you should, especially at the start, get like a part-time job or something that can pay for all your personal expenses. So then your business account is exactly that, your business account, and you don't touch it. And then maybe once you're at the point of doing well enough to pay yourself a set salary, then do that. And it's very obvious now I say it, but when I was just focused on like making the designs, making the learning how to market and all this, it's just simple things definitely do just slip by.
And I think that's so important. I think when you are a solo business owner, you do have to wear all the hats. And I think that's so scary. I mean, for me personally, obviously I come from a finance background, so that was all right, but I didn't know the first thing about marketing or advertising or sales or social media. I had no idea about any of it. And so trying to run around and sort all these things out is so scary, and things do slip through the cracks. Like, if you were to look at my social media page when it first came out, I don't think I had anything written on my bio. I made my cousin design my logo for me. Like, I just was a complete and utter mess. But someone like you who's very creative would have gone, ooh, I think you've forgotten to write a bio.
Yeah, but even still, like, you make a logo and then 2 months later you're like, what was I thinking? Like,
yeah, I think there's so many mistakes. But how did you find your work-life balance when you started building a company?
I found it relatively easy, mainly due to luck and good environment. Like, my mum's very supportive and she's never like, what are you doing that for? Go get like a full-time job. She's always been very supportive and like nice. And then I've also maybe got lucky in the job selection. I did for the first like 6 months or so I was doing it, maybe a year, I did Amazon Flex, which is just delivery driving, and you just go pick up 40 parcels. You do it for like an hour to 2 hours. So it's very like minimal, and you can, especially with that, you can literally do it when you would like go on the app in the day, see if they've got any blocks, you get it, go get it. So like you don't, if you're busy with your work that day, you just don't go. Or so whereas I can imagine it would be a bit different if you had like a boss being like, you got to do this shift, you got to do that shift. So I definitely found that bit a bit easy.
I think that's such a good idea. I think so many people are in full-time employment starting a business on the side and go, well, I have to work in my employment 9 to 5, and then I've got 5 till 9, for example, to work on my brand and my business. Actually having a part-time job like that must have just been so incredibly helpful.
Yeah, obviously it's only really possible when you don't have a huge amount of overheads like rent, mortgage, kids, anything like that. If you start a business 40 with kids, house, you can't just quit the day job and hope it works, because then obviously you might be homeless. If you're lucky enough to think about doing it when you're young and you live at home, then it's definitely better to do that.
I think so, and I think it's so important for young people to start businesses, because if it doesn't go the way that you want it to go first time, then that's fine. Like, you haven't got as many pressures on yourself. And for me personally, my worst nightmare is getting to 50, 60 and going, I never tried that thing I always wanted to do, and I never like see if it was going to work. Whereas like with what I'm doing now, if it doesn't work, fine, back to the drawing board. I'm 21, I've got loads of time. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so important. But I think hearing stories from like people like you that have done it yourself like builds up confidence in other people that they'll be able to do it themselves, because you just started it for free on Instagram, and I think that's absolutely amazing. As someone who started my own accountancy business, I know how exciting and challenging it can be. If you're looking to follow a similar path, Informe is here to help. A free website powered by AAT, Informe provides free guidance to empower small businesses to make more informed decisions. Informe will help unlock your inspiration and turn your idea into a reality, and navigate the non-stop challenges of running a business from start up to scale up. Find out more at informe.co.uk/unconventional.
There was this another brand that started at the same time, and they're huge now, and it's hard to not compare myself to them and be like a bit sad. But you've probably heard of them, maybe Broken Planet Market? No. They're pretty big. But at the time, when I first started, like they were tiny too. I was literally just talking to the girl who runs it, or one of the girl that runs it, as like kind of like just like, oh, we're both doing the same thing, just chatting friendly and just every now and then just being encouraging. And then when obviously theirs just blew up, but I don't know, she started it in a different position. She was older, she'd had a job, she's already lived in her own apartment, all these things. So I try not to compare myself, but they're huge. They've got all these celebrities wearing it now.
You'll be having celebrities wear it soon, I'm sure.
Hopefully one day.
How important do you think influencer marketing is for a clothing brand like yours?
I think it's nearly impossible to be successful without it. I think as like I was saying earlier, I think I heard a statistic, and whether it's true or not, it's like something like 71% of sales in streetwear come through influencer marketing. And I mean, I believe it because I know personally, like a celebrity wears something and all of a sudden it sells out.
Yes,
like,
I know someone who runs a gel card company, and I think it was Bella Hadid. You posted a picture on Instagram with a gel card, it's tiny, it's this big, on her table in front of her, and it went viral completely.
What is a gel card?
It's, he's going to kill me if I get it wrong. It's a little sachet like this big, and the company was built during COVID. So you fold it in half and hand sanitizer comes out, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, but yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, even like simple things, like you see like the Kardashians post something like a drink, like that new drink in their story, or anything. It's normally closed.
Tequila 818.
Yeah, or it's, a lot of the time you see it's closed. Like Kanye West wears some weird boots, and now that boot is just sold out everywhere. It's like people are very sheepish in the sense that like they want to fit in. So if this famous celebrity is wearing it, it must be cool, and we'll wear that. So it's I think you were saying earlier about someone, if you're already, say, an influencer with a following, then you start up a brand, it seems like a far easy, not to say it's easy, but like a business model path. Because I know another person that did it. She's Grace Beverly. She was huge, and then she started the Talia brand.
Yeah.
And obviously it's directed to females, so I don't know anything about it other than it's doing well. But it's like, that is a good idea. Like, you got the viewership.
She's got the community as well that she's built. That's amazing, because she did sell fitness plans before, and then to go into like gym wear, leisure wear, where it's like very connected, is great, because she's just building on her audience, which is so clever.
Yeah, I just remember I was like 16, and my friend at school, she told me about, obviously, I don't know why she was telling me about it, but she was just at Oxford and doing all this stuff at the same time. So it's quite impressive.
No, I think that's amazing. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone starting a clothing brand who is in your position, what would it be?
It's a tough one. We're going to be able to cut out this awkward.
Yeah, go on, take your time.
Let me think about it.
It can be more than one if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm ready. Are you going to say again? Or?
How many pieces of advice would you like me to tell you to give you?
Just say one, and then we'll see.
What is one piece of advice you would give to someone in your position starting a clothing brand?
I think you just want to not overthink it too much, because at the end of the day, if you really want to start a clothing brand, you do have to just do it, because it's such a saturated market that you really need to, like, if you just sit there like thinking about it, like I think a lot of people, they'll just like come up with names, come up with designs, and then they'll be like, yeah, it'd be cool if I did that. And I think my problem when I started was like, why would anyone want to wear something that I designed? Like, I'd never, like, because it's the same with putting your personality out there. It's like, I don't think I'm that special, that my designs are that amazing that someone should wear it. So I think getting over that for certain people like us is quite important. And the best thing you can do is just put things out there. And once a couple people buy it, it starts to slowly alleviate. But even saying that, I've sold thousands and thousands of things, and I still get that problem. Where
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it's like, why? It's weird. But yeah, it's definitely lesser than it used to be.
Good, I'm glad. And I think that's something that every business owner has to work on, because I'm terrible personally for comparing myself against other people in my industry. I'll be like, an accountant came out today and she was like, just had a Forbes article written about me. And I was like, I'm doing terribly because Forbes haven't written about me yet. But then I have to sit back and go, I've been doing this for months. It's all right. It's not the end of the world. You'll get there one day. But that is so difficult, especially with social media. I'm
the exact same. Anyone who's doing a clothing brand or anything, especially if they're a similar age, or it's so easy to just be like, I may as well give up. Like, I'm not there. I'm failing. But it's horrible. I get that a lot. Sometimes I have to limit like my market research, because honestly, it's the exact same as that. You just think. And especially when someone starts the same time, not a bit older, but not crazy older, and then is doing so much better than you just think like, am I doing it wrong? And obviously to an extent she's doing it better, but you just can't compare yourself, because everything's different from your childhood, how you're raised.
And you just don't see that. Everyone just sees, like, I always say, like, the top of the iceberg. No one ever sees what's underneath. Like, no one knows your backstory or how you came to be. Everyone's just looking at basically what you put out on social media, which I think is like so scary.
Yeah, no, I think definitely if you're not aware, social media is very bad for your mental health.
I think so. And speaking to people that have a large following on social media, like, it's not as like pretty and nice as it seems on the outside. They've got things going on. They are normal people, but I just think it's important to sometimes take a step back and just go, you've got it, you're all right,
Yeah.
and just have a bit more confidence.
And you just have to compare yourself to yourself. I think that's all I try and remind myself. Where was I a year ago? Am I happy that I've improved? And that's all that matters, because it's silly comparing yourself to someone else, because you'll never be them.